Thank you very much. I'll just start sharing my screen. This is going to be a whistle-stop tour because there's so much to say and so much to share. But I'm going to try and talk about, first of all, as Deepa said, you're nurturing yourself with water and things. But there's also some evidence-based tips I'll share from Jill Mabon and some others doing things with Schwartz rounds and things about what you can do helping each other. So talk to your colleagues. They may well relate about what you're going through at the moment. Try and brainstorm problems together. It's not necessarily about being resilient, it's about understanding where you're at. Having some offload sessions where you could just get things off your chest with people. Try and boost other people's well-being. Remind them that they're safe, to talk with you here in the here and now. And it's really important to be praising other people and giving them positive feedback around this time. So I just wanted to share those tips with you as we go through some difficult times. And if you are asking people how they are, there's some kind of tips on how to ask the right questions from Watson in 2020. What have been your greatest challenges, hassles, or frustrations? What are your greatest rewards? What does this mean to be in this team? If you don't know how to respond to someone when they tell you something's been really difficult, and just acknowledging that it must have been incredibly hard, and either saying you can't imagine how that must feel, or trying to put yourself in their shoes, being compassionate in that way. And you can use prompting questions as well to get people to open up a little bit if you think others are struggling at this time. And I just wanted to share with you some work I've done with other colleagues in the past. The references are all at the bottom of each slide. I'm talking about just about what shows workplace compassion during this time. Really important that management and leadership have no blame, no bullying cultures, investment in staff, recognition that people are human. In terms of value and culture, it's really important to feel heard, enjoy your work, be engaged. Small gestures of kindness are really important, and make sure that you've got personalised policies and procedures in place to really respecting people's rights to breaks, and treating people well when they're unwell, that kind of thing there. So just some almost further reading for you, if you like. But I'm really going to focus this on problematic substance use, this presentation, because earlier this week we had our research come out in relation to midwives' problematic substance use. And we know that there's human and financial costs associated with problematic substance use. I'm a panelist on the Nursing Midwifery Council, and we frequently see cases relating to drug and alcohol use come in front of the panels, and it's incredibly sad to see. And there's not been any research on it in midwifery populations. There's some in nursing, some in doctors, but the data on midwives is often merged with nurses. And the common findings are really that there's a lack of support, some fear, stigma, denial, unhealthy coping behaviours, and a need for targeted workplace support. So we're really at the beginning of this journey. And other people have looked at it before in terms of NMC data, but they haven't looked at it in terms of what it might mean. So why focus on midwives? Like I said, nurses and doctors have some research around this, but we know that the midwives have high rates of burnout, traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and these are the findings of Billy Hunter and Helen Spivey and Karen Sheen. I'm sure you're all aware of their work, but they kind of set the ground rules really as to, this is why we need to focus on midwives. This is the issue. So when I reviewed the literature with colleagues, again, you can see at the bottom who's worked with me on this, we only found 3 studies looking at midwives and substance use, problematic substance use, and they were in different countries. They weren't in the UK, but midwives generally had harmful daily alcohol consumption. There was a link between working hours and that alcohol consumption, and different features associated with it. And then with student midwives, it was really in terms of student nights and using it to escape really from the realities of what was going on in their training. So there's an ethical dilemma really in looking at this, and we've certainly found it really challenging to study this because, of course, I'm a registered midwife and I'm on the NMC panels, and if someone discloses to me that they're using substances to cope, or they might not be fit to practice, I have a duty to do something about that. So and so do GPs and other people who understand what's going on. So it's really difficult for people to disclose without having any kind of repercussions. And especially doing this research, I had to make sure that everybody was anonymous, the confidentiality was maintained, and I couldn't track anyone, even if I wanted to. So we maintained the principles of confidentiality and anonymity so that we could have an amnesty over anyone that was involved in this research, and we maintained that throughout. And we explored that in our ethical paper there at the bottom, with different colleagues. So just prior to the first 2020 lockdown, so March, we went to ask people via an anonymous online survey about their substance use. So not necessarily if it was problematic, just in general. And 623 midwives were surveyed, and we used several tools to look at their substance use and what the perceptions around substance use was. What did they think about other colleagues? What did they think of themselves? What did they think of it in general, etc.? But we had to stop this data collection just in response to the lockdown, because we knew that would change things dramatically for data collection. And again, this has just been published, so it's down at the bottom left there. You can see the publication if you want to go and have a look at the results in more details. But generally, just over a quarter of the sample did screen positive for problematic substance use, and that was in relation to alcohol and a range of other drugs. It occurred really in response to work-related stress, they said, anxiety, bullying, traumatic clinical incidents, to maintain their functioning, to sleep, to wake up, that kind of thing. And then 11% of those affected indicated that they had sought help, but 27% said they should have done, but they didn't. And the reasons they said they didn't was because they just feared repercussions, shame, stigma. There were practicalities and perceived lack of support, either that they didn't think it was there or they didn't think it was needed. And then 10% of the sample reported that they'd attended work under the influence of alcohol, and 6% had attended work under the influence of drugs. So that's obviously got implications for the quality of care delivered. And then 37% said that they were actually concerned about a colleague's substance use, as someone else they were working with in the midwifery profession. But most of the perceptions were compassionate towards getting people better, etc. But there were a minority of stigmatizing attitudes displayed, which actually deterred more midwives from coming forward and seeking help. So they were quite dangerous, really. So in terms of, I'm just going to share with you a few quotes here, because I'm so excited to share these quotes because I haven't been able to, because it hasn't been published. So this is some of our data. And the reasons for use, they were talking about stigma. Following traumatic clinical incident at work a few years ago, I started using weed and booze to cope. Work is hard, it triggers my anxiety, but I'm trapped. And trapped was definitely a theme they felt, because they couldn't seek help, and they just had to keep on coping however they were, to either sleep or work or wake up, etc. And then in relation to concern about colleagues, they talk about midwives coming on the early shift after a heavy night drinking. They're shaking, they're impaired, and they're just trying to get through the shift. And then worryingly, colleagues addicted to alcohol have been named and shamed by other colleagues rather than helped and supported, and they've classed that as bullying. Everyone else is looking on, has learned from that. Now nobody asked for help. So we can see the implications of really not being compassionate towards people who have these problematic substance use. And they felt trapped. They've seen other people named and shamed rather than help, so they can't afford to lose their job or their reputation, so they struggle on. They don't come forward and seek help, which is really, really scary. For obvious reasons, we can think about the implications of someone practicing in this sense. And then these stigmatizing attitudes, there's never an excuse. Midwives impaired by substances should be named and shamed. So this is a senior midwife saying, they should be struck off. There's no room for weakness. People are suspended. They told the press, they went to the press about somebody. And I've heard more stories about this since I've been doing the research. More people have come forward with stories of a similar nature. And then, another midwife just saying, they're just playing the mental health card once they've been found out. It's just an excuse for their own mistakes. So quite difficult responses there. But compassionately, people were saying, they need treatment programs, need help, they need support. I'm really pleased this research is being done. They need to feel that they can seek help. They need to have that reduced stigma, because that's going to make maternity services safer overall. If people can get better, retain their fitness to practice, regain their fitness to practice if they've lost it, and continue in our wonderful profession, delivering excellence in care every day. But of course, now we've had the COVID pandemic going on for over a year. It's not over yet, as we've been talking about this evening, and it's going to have depleted frontline healthcare workers. And there's suggestions in the literature that it may have exacerbated problematic substance use in healthcare staff. So we got ethical approval to run the survey again. So a second survey, part 2, which is open now, to see whether things have changed now, whether whether midwives are using more substances, less substances, for different reasons, different varieties, and how that's really playing out, so we can start to understand more, so that we can start to do more. So we're aiming to identify the rate of problematic substance use this time, explore the leaving intentions of midwives. So, are people thinking of staying or leaving in the profession? How are they seeking help now? Has the pandemic made them want to seek more help, less help, for what reasons? And how is this affecting their health at the moment? And then we're going to measure their work engagement as well, how engaged they feel in their work. And we're collecting this data now, as I said, to compare with those last year. We've been accepted to present our findings at the International Practitioner Health Summit in 2022. So all the results we get from that, all of the anonymous responses we get, we will be sharing at that Wounded Healer conference to be held at the Royal College of GPs. And if you decide to participate, which I really hope you do, we will ensure that your voice is heard while maintaining your anonymity. We couldn't find out who you were, even if we wanted to. And this is the information in the poster. I will put the link to the survey in the chat, in the Facebook chat, when I come off this call, but it's there, and you can follow me on all social media channels, and I'll be sharing all the details of it. Share it on your social media channels too, please, with other midwives, so that we can get as many people as possible, whether they use substances or not, just to get that data in, so that we can really start to unravel this picture. It's never been done before, this type of research, and if we start to understand the problem, then we can start to address it, and make things safer for maternity staff, midwives, and the people in their care. So this second study is funded by the Iolanthe Trust. We won a Midwives Award for funding study recruitment, so we can go to, I could have media training, because we anticipate that there might be some media attention around this research. Dissemination events, so that we can attend conferences and get travel expenses paid, and bolster future plans, really, to co-create with the Royal Colleges, with the Nursing Midwifery Council, anybody with an interest in this work coming together with us, so that we can be solutions focused rather than blame focused, and really start to look at the problem. And I've whistle-stopped through that, but I'm really happy to take questions. I'm sure there's been lots going on in the chat. And I will stop sharing now. But thank you.